Hi, welcome to Gender Nebulous, episode 42, with me, Victoria Hodges, and my lovely co-host, Miss Freda Wallace.
Oh, that's me.
That's
Sorry.
you. Wake up.
I was just
What are you
catching
reading
up
there?
with Woman and Home.
Woman and Home.
Yeah.
One of my
I've
favourites.
decided to become a trad wife. I've been reading all
to become
about
what?
a trad wife.
Okay.
It means that you'll go for a traditionalist approach to feminism. Well, it's not feminism, is it? But I mean, I don't think looking the way I do, I'd get very far as a trad wife. But I'm trying my best. It might collar me a husband.
So what have you been up to since we last podded?
Well, I've been writing a bit about recent news about, the EHRC.
Yes.
I wrote an article about that. It's like a blog, like my blog is called The Turf Reich.
So this is just a continuation of that blog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is that. And while I'm writing, I write kind of irreverently. I'm like sort of, I know the subject is serious, but I always like bring my kind of, satire to it. So that's, there's a lot of kind of punching and kind of slagging people off a little bit. It's all factual stuff that I can cite. Everything's cited at the bottom. But if you have a look at my blog on Medium, that's there. So I've been doing that.
Yep.
And been having a nice Easter weekend.
Yes. So good.
Yeah,
Friday.
I went last night. I went to. I did a spoken word thing there at the Gatehouse. Gatehouse is like I describe like a fetish club, bondage, fetish, that kind of thing. And it's like I think of it as a safe space.
Yeah, the kind of thing you do at Easter weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jesus, he got whipped and punished a bit, and he loved it. And but I did a little bit of spoken word, and I did my transgender lesbian sperm producing female, and I did my JK Rowling one. But
Okay, so just a question: was it busy this weekend? I mean, it's Easter weekend. Do people tend to do that?
It wasn't massively busy as it would have been normally, but there's quite a few there, about 40, I think 30 or 40 people. But it's quite a small place. Yeah. It's interesting. You meet all kinds of crazy people and interesting people, and it's like I think of these are kind of like safe spaces for a lot of people because they can express themselves and just be around people they know. You're not going to judge them, and it's just a nice space. That's why I like it.
So do you get a good mix of kind of LGBT people and straight people and?
Well, it's a bit of an odd one. Sometimes you have to. There's like straight swinging couples, which is a bit odd, but they're respectful. As long as everybody's respectful. Like clubs like that have rules. That's why women feel safe in them. That's why a lot of women go, who dress in a certain way, and it gives them a sort of confidence, and they feel safe in that space because if anybody was to approach anybody disrespectfully, they would be booted out straight away.
Yeah, you see, because you see online all this nonsense about toilets and trans people and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But there's a club like that which is everybody's welcome and there's no problems.
Yeah, people walk around semi-naked.
Yeah.
And people are respectful of each other because people are genuinely respectful of each other. And if anybody, it's like. I think those kind of spaces are safer than me going to a regular club.
They probably are because it is more of a controlled.
Like if I was to go into a regular pub where I live, I would have to kind of negotiate my way around it a little bit more than I would if I went to a place like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's
All right. Should we have a look at the news then?
Yeah, let's have a look at what crap's been going on this week.
There's been a lot of crap.
What terrible things have happened this week, Victoria?
Well, let's start with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So, May elections are coming up, local elections.
Yeah, local elections.
And there's been a lot of talk about voter ID cards being required this time round. Photo ID cards. So this is just a reminder to people that if you want to vote, you will need to have a voter ID with a photo. So driving license, passport, or you can get a voter ID card from the local council, I think it is, wherever you live.
Yeah, I know a lot of people...
I think they're free.
A lot of people don't vote in local elections, but I think it's very important. But this story is interesting because there is going to be a general election coming up within when is it? 18 months?
About 18 months-ish. I think it has to happen before January 25.
We need, if you're LGBTQ and you don't have any ID, get some ID, because you need to, they're going to use this to try and, I mean, I don't know what the thinking is behind it really. Just because, like, I think most people will have some form of ID, but it's just they need photo ID, and I don't really understand why. I mean, I don't want. Well,
the reason the Tories are doing this is because of some kind of voter fraud they're afraid of. I mean, they do this in the States. I think this is an imported idea.
Yeah.
You know, for no real reason. I don't believe we have a problem in this country with the voter ID fraud.
I think this idea has probably come out of a think tank on top.
It's probably come out of a think tank as a way to, you know, exclude people who don't vote Tory. I mean, I guess that's what's behind it.
Yeah.
You know, so anybody who can't afford to go get a passport or doesn't drive or doesn't have photo ID, you know, they've now got to go and make an effort to get something so that they can actually vote. So, you know,
I think
a lot of people will be probably turned away because they haven't got something, or what they do have, especially in the case of trans people, they have something, some form of ID in it, and they get turned away because it doesn't look like them the way that the person there expects, you know.
You might have an old passport that doesn't have your correct name on it.
Or you might have a passport in, you know, early transition days. It doesn't look like you now, you know.
Well, that was one of my first things that I did when I got my deed poll, my name change. I wrote to my doctor and said, because you have to get a doctor's signature to get a passport name change. So that's the first thing I did. And because I think those things, some people will say, oh, you shouldn't have to.
But does it, I mean, how does it compare to how you look now?
What, my old
your
passport
ID?
picture?
Well, no, your current one.
Well, I never do a good passport picture. No, you know, when you sat in the booth and it's like, oh, I look like I've got a crick neck because I'm trying to sort of pose myself.
So the Transaxual had actually made some comments on this. I'll just read those out. So the bill comes in as trans-led organisation Transaxual has told supporters to register for a postal vote rather than bring photo ID this May, amid concerns they could be turned away if their presented gender on their ID doesn't closely resemble their current presented gender. And Jane Fay, director and coordinator of Transaxual's Don't Lose Your Vote campaign, told Byline Times, voter ID is just the latest in a series of ill-thought-out measures introduced over the last decade to impact the rights of trans people to vote. Previous government has listened to our concerns, but this one hasn't.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know if it's an attack. Feels like it might be. But I guess the answer is if you can get ID, get it, or the
whole point of democracy is that everybody has a vote, right? But if you put obstacles in the way of that, even if it's something as small as not having a photo ID, that is an obstacle.
I mean, they could have phased this in, couldn't they? They could have said, like, okay, we're phasing our way across to needing ID, but this time you can do either. And then they just remind people that, you know, it's coming, so give people plenty of time to go get what they need. I mean, if you're going to bring it in, let's do it over a longer period and help people to get what they need.
And another thing is, I'm not sure with the local elections, but a lot of elections recently and votes, and they're very close margins. So if people say, oh, I can't be bothered, or, you know, I can't get the ID, I can't be bothered going into town or whatever you have to, it will make a difference if those people if the people that could have voted can't because they don't have the right ID. Yeah. You know, that's a close call.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see the figures after the vote, to see how many people got turned away, because they will have to keep record of that. So,
and Another thing that I don't like, I wanted to bring up, like I talked to some trans people who are activists, and they're kind of like, I don't know if they're disillusioned with the party system, the voting system, but sometimes you've just got to work with what you've got.
Yeah.
And democracy is an experiment we all live in. It's not you can argue you could have different systems of organizing society, more fair systems, but this experiment we're in seems to be the one that is the better option at the moment, right? So, and like we live in an equilibrium of things. Like you'll hear people say, "I don't want to live in a socialist world. I don't want," but we do. So there is some socialist parts of the government. You can't live in an ultra-capitalist side and then an ultra-socialist side. The democracy gives you is that equilibrium, and sometimes it'll balance the way you don't want, and sometimes it'll balance the way you do want. But if you don't vote, you will never have a say in that balance. It's as simple as that for me.
I think the message is you have to. We don't have to. But you should vote if you can.
And I do vote because even in local elections, because I don't like it when people complain about local government and then they're not interested in the running of it, because I like looking.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to vote. I mean, who to vote for? I like looking who the
candidates are. I look at the Facebook pages of the candidates and I look for what they're kind of sharing and what they're liking and that is where I get my picture from.
Yeah,
that's fine. I think that's a good way. Obviously, it's all kind of curated.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure if I was a politician, I wouldn't be posting half of the stuff that I post on Twitter. I'd fall at the first hurdle. Like, who's this pervert?
Who's this pervert? That's not very nice. I just changed the image to Dylan Mulvaney, and you said, "Who's this pervert?"
Oh, so I didn't mean that. I meant me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking about some of the stuff that I post on Twitter.
That was terrible timing.
And other people say that, not me.
Yeah, no, I was just messing with you because I've just changed the image.
I mean, if Dylan Mulvaney's a pervert, I'm fine with it.
No,
I don't think they are.
So, Dylan Mulvaney, TikTok star, has been out and is trans, and I think that's been for the past year, past 12 months.
Yeah, he's built up a massive following on TikTok.
Yeah. So the story is about bigots are raging at Bud Light for giving trans TikTok star Dylan Mulvaney a single can of beer. So it's once again another company is doing something that is trans supportive, or they're working with a trans influencer, or just an influencer, and the kind of the right wing conservative types don't like this. It's just a can of beer with her face on it. I mean,
what's actually happening here is there's a marketing department, and all they have is a list of the top trending things.
Other beers are available.
It's just a case of numbers.
If Stella Armstrong wants to send me a can of something with my face on it, please let me
know. What was I going to say? I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry.
Now. I'm thinking about beer now. These marketing departments, or whoever's in the, PR department, will just look at the numbers and they'll send these things to loads of people.
Yeah, they have hundreds of influencers on social media who, I don't know if they pay, they probably pay them something or send them a gift or something.
The only reason this is controversial,
product placement on their Twitter account.
I've got issues with Dylan Mulvaney. I've looked.
That's not the thing, though, is it? I mean, you don't have to like the person. It's just
this is my personal view. Like I look at it, I think it's just really cringe. It's like he's like a theatre kid, and it's like but I love the fact that Dylan Mulvaney winds up the right people.
Yes, exactly.
Because you can tell the way they concentrate on her is she might be like, Dylan Mulvaney is either a genius at exposing bigotry or the best marketing and advertising trope ever. Because whatever they have, people.
I mean,
love
it
to
works,
hate
doesn't it? Whatever she does, it works.
Yeah.
Let me just read out a bit of the article. Okay, so right-wing snowflakes are reportedly boycotting alcohol brand Bud Light because of a partnership with trans TikTok star and actress Dylan Mulvaney. Social media sensation posted a video to her 1.7 million Instagram followers. That's a huge following.
It's huge.
Explaining
as
that
much as me.
Yeah, explaining that the company sent her a personalised beer can to mark the 1-year anniversary of her Days of Womanhood TikTok series. So
you see, Dylan knows exactly how to play into the hate in a way, because she knows exactly what to say to wind people up, and obviously they buy it every time. They like hook, line, and sinker for it, and it's good TV, isn't it? Like if you were if you were a TV producer and you want, it's like GB News or whatever, it's just perfect fodder for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the comments, I mean, Kid Rock, right?
Yeah.
What his comment was, well, it was more of an action. He bought a load of Bud Light, stuck it on the park bench, and then attacked it with an automatic rifle.
You see that?
That is just ridiculous because, he's playing into that kind of trans, hatred, and then he's using guns. It's like, what kind of message is that?
It's a horrible message. And nobody's going to call out Kid Rock for that. No, I mean, we will. But I'm talking about the media at large and not going to say, look at this straight white man with a gun, because misogyny is so rooted in the culture, and male aggression is so normalized that you don't even notice it. And when a trans person is pictured with a gun in the media, that person becomes a terrorist. But Kid Rock is a hero because it's that white male militaristic, misogyny, systemic misogyny, institutionalized misogyny that people are so blind to. And I know guns are celebrated in America, people collect guns, and I don't think that this is me having a rant about gun control. It's just me saying that, Kid Rock has had no criticism from the media for that.
No, I mean, it's okay for you to go and get a gun and shoot up a pile of cans of beer.
Metaphorically shoot at your enemy.
Yeah.
Now, it's only a few stages removed, because to be honest, if I was
Dylan Mulvaney's, it's one can of Bud Light at the centre with a picture on it. Yeah, and she's just got one post on Instagram talking about it. I mean, what harm can that do?
Well, the message.
It's just ridiculous.
The message is that it's okay to visit violence upon trans, like a trans imagery. Like so even though imagine if he'd got a photograph of Dylan Mulvaney and did that. Yeah, it's not far removed.
It's not far removed,
is it? No.
No, not at all.
No. So anyway, I mean, I've got like a few things that I don't like about Dylan Mulvaney, obviously, but I wouldn't want anybody to. Yeah,
but that's not
portray him in that
that's
way.
That's not the story. The story is,
I
products and. If you're trans, why can't we promote products? I mean, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Because I want to promote products.
Yeah. Next story is another Dylan Mulvaney story, and this time it's about...
Hey, Vicky, you know what we need to promote?
Go on.
Custard tarts.
Custard tarts.
Yeah.
Yep.
It needs to be, we need to be the face of custard tarts.
I think I already am.
I was the face of a cherry bakewell on our last podcast, but face went bright red.
It did, didn't it? Yeah. So this one is Dylan Mulvaney. Trolls are boycotting Nike. I think, is it Nike or Nike? I don't know. I'm going to say Nike. Over trans TikToker modelling women's leggings.
Women's leggings.
Women's leggings.
Are they gendered?
What is she? I mean, are we saying that trans women can't wear leggings? I wear them all the time. It's like, what the hell is wrong with these people? So this kind of caught my attention because Olympian, I don't think she was much of an Olympian, but anyway.
She won a silver medal.
She won one medal once upon a time.
Yeah, it wasn't even a good one.
No. Sharon Davis has hit out at influencer Dylan Mulvaney for her partnership with Nike, describing her wearing a pair of leggings as a kick in the teeth. It's like, what on earth does Dylan Mulvaney wearing or promoting a pair of Nike leggings have to do with Sharon Davis? Sharon Davis is complaining that money is being spent by Nike on promoting, with Dylan Mulvaney. And she's saying that money should be spent on women's sports.
Well, now, what I would say to Sharon Davis is, why don't you campaign for grassroots girl sports instead of wasting your time worrying about what leggings a trans woman is wearing?
It's just mad.
And also, Sharon Davis, right? Let's face it, she's an anti. I mean, she's made a few anti-vax posts. She's talked about, this 15-minute cities conspiracy theory because the council are putting cycle lanes in her town. She thinks it's some kind of conspiracy to stop people leaving. I mean, we're not dealing with a rational person here. You're dealing with somebody that's been given money from the LGB Alliance or something similar, so she can go on to, have a Twitter boosted. Yeah. Because she can have that. She can represent the argument against trans sports.
Okay, but think about the marketing departments of both, Bud Light and Nike. They see this kind of, TikToker, Dylan Mulvaney, who has 1.7 million followers. I mean, that is a massive following, and it's a marketing department's dream situation, is it? Because here's a young person who's really good at marketing stuff and looks good. Yeah, does a few crazy things, but that brings in that age group. I mean, they're targeting Dylan's age group, aren't they, with these products? They're not targeting Sharon Davis's age group at all. It's not just sports. I mean, people wear leggings for all kinds of reasons. It's not, you don't just wear a pair of leggings to go and play sports, do you? I mean, it's nothing to do with sports really. It's more to do with Nike fashion advertising to a demographic that Dylan Mulvaney covers. I mean, what's wrong with this?
Well, I mean,
why she has to
thing is,
get involved even? It's just.
I mean, it's not even about sport though, is it? Because obviously, if Dylan Mulvaney was like,
well, Sharon Davis is making it about sport. Dylan Mulvaney's not even a sports person.
Exactly. So obviously, again, it's simply about
anti-trans rhetoric.
A lot of them, yeah, exactly. And a lot of them will say, oh, look, Dylan Mulvaney LARPing as a woman and sending up what it means to be a woman. Tell you what, I don't know many women that actually do that. You know what I mean? I think most women, probably don't dance around on TikTok, but that they think that's what it represents. So they must think that's what a woman is, or they have this misogynistic idea already. Because you don't have to have a person to represent anything. They just represent themselves. And people seem to like watching Dylan Mulvaney. But like I said, I can watch it and laugh. And, I am glad that somebody like Dylan Mulvaney is out there winding up these idiots.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it represents anything. I just think it's pure advertising and marketing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, Brilliant.
That's how the world works.
If you want to sell a few leggings and if you want to sell a few Bud Lights.
So I would encourage everybody to go and buy Nike leggings and Bud Light beer. And if you want to send me some Stella Artois, I'll be happily.
We should have thought ahead, shouldn't we? Should have worn Nike leggings and had Bud Light beers
we should
when we did this. Yeah, maybe next week.
Okay, this next story is a serious one.
I did actually post a picture of myself in a sports bra.
Did you? Good.
On Twitter, just cause.
So we've all heard what's going on with the EHRC this week.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Trans activists horrified as UK government considers making sex mean biological sex. Mm-hmm. So this is the ongoing saga with the Equality and Human Rights Commission, basically having been taken over by. Appointed by people by what was her name? Our previous Prime Minister,
Do you mean Theresa May?
No.
Oh, no, Boris Johnson.
No. The other one.
Was it Boris Johnson?
After Boris.
Oh, God. Oh, God, there was that woman that was like
That
Prime
woman.
Minister for 5 minutes.
What was that woman's name? I can't remember that woman's name.
What was she called? That lady that was Prime Minister for 5 seconds. And she killed the Queen.
Oh, God, it's gone. Mind blank. Anyway. Liz Truss.
Liz Trust. In Liz We
There's
Trust.
no
That
trust.
was the
See what's happened
Daily
there?
Mail
My brain
headline.
has deliberately deleted it. You see? That's trauma. Sign of trauma. Deleted the name.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah, I mean, it was Liz Truss that appointed the person who currently runs the EHRC, which is Kishore Faulkner.
Yeah.
And, you know, what we've seen this week after this stupid statement that's come out, and if you want to understand what's going on with this statement, there's a really good article that's been written by Jess Thompson from Trans Safety Network, and I'll show it on screen in a minute.
Yeah.
And that's on
really
the Open Democracy website. I'm not going to try and explain it because Jess has written a really good article which explains all the ins and outs of what it means. But, you know, in terms of the EHRC, there was a podcast I did with Jane Fay and Claire Proshow from what used to be Steph's Place.
Mm-hmm.
And my co-host at the time was Violet. So I've tweeted that because it was a really good article and podcast around what was happening at the time. And I think it was about a year and a half ago now, which was all around what they were doing back then. You know, and there was a Ben Hunt Vice News investigation into what was going on. So that's all in the podcast, and this article that Jess has done kind of talks about what's happening
It's
now.
like, try and support Trans Safety Network if you can, because they do some great stuff. And a lot of the information I put in my blog has come from there. And like I said, I've written about it a little bit, and then I traced it back to, you know, the first kind of, there was a story in Vice about the corruption within the EHRC and members of the LGBT Alliance having meetings with them.
Yeah.
So it's
Secretly.
not, it comes as no surprise. But I was good. It wasn't another Baroness Faulkner.
Yeah, she's the one
She was in the Times.
She's the one who's in charge of it.
She was in the Times this weekend saying it's horrible to be called transphobic scum. I was like, oh my God.
Well, there's an easy solution to that. Don't be transphobic.
I fancy having somebody write. I mean, obviously it's a collusion, and they've managed to try and make her seem like she's the one that's being hard done to. You know, if you're running a human rights organization and people are telling you're actually reducing people's human rights, maybe you should just listen.
So again, and somebody else from Transactual, Helen Belcher, chair of Transactual, said that the EHRC letter seemed to be indicating that the watchdog is keen to assist in the redefinition of the word woman, which has been understood to include trans women for many, many years, in a move driven by political desire and manufactured fear more than systemic evidence. So
I noticed that Helen Belcher's name's come up quite a lot recently, because she must be doing something right, because
I think there's been a meeting
it.
with the EHRC this week with Helen and others.
But these people, like, you know, Mayor Forster, Ellen Joyce, they're in a panic now because they put a petition up a few months ago to try and get 100,000 petition emails, whatever. And it's got there, but it took them 4 months and a bit, and probably every transphobe in England and beyond has signed that. But there was a petition against this ruling, the potential ruling, and that got 100,000. What is it at now? 120,000.
I think it's almost 130,000 now.
And I think that was only going. I mean, I think it was set up a while ago, but
I think it had a slow start, and then this last week
it had a massive push.
It's had a massive surge.
As soon as this announcement came that they were going to try to look into this change, bam, that thing went wild.
It's still increasing. Still increasing.
Every day it's going to go over 200,000.
It will.
I think. How long does it run till? Does it say?
I think they run for 6 months, so it's probably got another month to go.
So yeah, if you've not signed this thing already, I'll put it on my Twitter. It's on my Twitter
it's on
already,
my Twitter already.
I'll repost it. Miss Freda Wallace on Twitter, and just sign that, because that will be, you know, we need to send the signal out there. I mean, you can argue about petitions and whether they work or whatever, but just the fact that people are, you know, making the voices heard there is really important.
Well, it forces them to have a debate in the Houses of Parliament.
But no, this is another thing. Mayor Forsyth says, now Stonewall wants a debate with us. No, we don't want a debate with you. You can sit down. It's got nothing to do with you. With them. Nobody's going to want to debate Helen Joyce or Mayor Forsyth or anybody at the LGBT Alliance.
Helen Joyce and Mayor Forsyth are not the government.
No.
What we need to do is talk to the government.
People. They can have their point of view. They have their vote. They have their right to say what their case is. But it doesn't stand up in court. It's like when they had that meeting.
Just someone's opinion.
What was that meeting? You know, with Robin Moyer. Right. It was the Women and Equalities chair.
Yeah.
With Caroline. If you watch that, I've broken that down into little segments on YouTube, and the arguments are so pathetic. And the lawyer there, legal feminist on Twitter, she's called Naomi Cunningham. She just completely gets eviscerated by Caroline Noakes, even though Caroline Noakes just lets her carry on, lets her make these points that trans people are some kind of threat. She lets her say, you know, it opens the key to let dangerous people into female spaces. She lets her say all that, and then at the last minute she goes, so what are the numbers? And then she has to say, well, it doesn't matter about the numbers. If there's one trans woman, no, the numbers matter. You need to do your maths. You need to do the risk assessment.
Yeah.
And there's another bit where she says, she's going on about trans women and accessing healthcare. And she was saying about cervical smears. And she said, you know, it changes the, you know, the data and all that. And then Caroline Noakes says, what about transgender men? And there's a silence for about...
They never think about trans men.
There's a silence for about 3 seconds. And then the other lawyer, Michael Foran, has to come in and rescue the feminist and had something completely unrelated. So if you watch, honestly, I
did watch it. Yeah.
I'm going to put that on Twitter again, because it's such a good demonstration of how weak their arguments are.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I can look at that and I go, bloody hell. You know, if this was a real court of where somebody was on a trial and there was a trans woman on trial and that was your argument against her, they'd be like, get out. It'd be like
Which is what normally happens when it does go to court.
It'd be like a Judge Judy situation, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm recommending people go and read what lawyers like, you know, Jess and...
Do you know what,
Robbie
Vicky?
Moira White are saying?
I'll tell you something. Since I've come out as trans, right? Since I came out and I've had to study law. I've had to study healthcare. I've had to study NHS. I've had to look at employment policy. I've had to, what else? You know, look into sports. I've had to look
at... Bit of an education, isn't it, really?
I've had to look at prison reform. And I would never have known any of this stuff, you know, otherwise. But because of the arguments they present, I've had to do that. Yeah. And I'm glad I've had to do that, because...
It's an education, isn't it?
What it shows me is injustices that I didn't see before.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when there used to be, you know, a story about some other minority or another group of people that were being lambasted by...
well, I mean, it opens your eyes up to what's going on with other groups as well.
Yeah, because
we're just this kind of trans group and, you know, LGBT issues, but there's similar things going on with other groups, you know, so it's not just us the government are after. You think you're going to take away our rights? Well, guess who's next? You know?
No, but I think I was in a Twitter space last night, and there were trans women, or they call themselves transsexual, and they are making a distinction between people that identify as trans and people that have been on medication and they've had operations, and they think they're more true trans.
Okay, so this is...
So what I'm saying is, okay, so but in this law, in this ruling, that wouldn't matter. They think that matters. It doesn't, because in this law, if this was to happen, that the same people that come in for somebody that's just come out as trans or maybe non-binary, it's going to affect them just as much as it is, because you can start saying things like, oh, well, I'm proper trans because I've...
Well, the Equality Act covers anybody who has the characteristic of gender reassignment, which is, you know, at any stage
but you
of
can't
transition.
You can't have a definition like what is trans like that, because it's a transitional process. It's like...
Yeah, it has to start somewhere, doesn't it? And
you have to be able to identify and live your life in a real social... in the real world, like, kind of thing. So, like, these academic lawyers, it's all right manufacturing scenarios or building a case, but you have to apply that to employment law.
And then
you have to apply that to social situations, and social situations are not the same as being on your computer, like building a case against something theoretically.
So part of the, you know, applying for a gender recognition certificate, you have to have this 2-year living in role thing.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that.
No, I don't know. I'm not saying I agree with it, but what I'm saying is that how would you do that? How would you show that you've done that if you've excluded from the spaces that you're supposed to be using during that period? You know, if this law change was to, you know, mean that trans people can't use the spaces they've been using for years, how would they then show that they are living in role? I mean, so it kind of...
Well, this comes off
it kind of prevents you from getting a GRC. I think it's probably a deliberate move. But,
of course it is. Yeah, because
they've not thought this through, have they?
They're frightened of what happened in Scotland.
Yeah.
And it was overwhelmingly voted...
It's a last-ditch attempt to get people to vote Tory before the election, you know.
All that activism of, you know, Beth in Scotland. I forgot her surname now. I'm really bad because I know her as Beth Pickle. But, that they did a good fucking job there. And all that lobbying, all those fake feminist groups in Scotland didn't touch it. So they made a fool of themselves. And I think it's the panic of that, because what they don't want is if it should just be fine, you know, trans people can identify however they like, and that's fine. Because once you open that gate, the Westminster won't have a good enough argument to not pursue Theresa May's original. It's an interesting thing you said to me the other day. I think you said that Keir Starmer is now further right, further conservative than Theresa May was in 2017.
Well, it was Theresa May that was bringing in, you know, was promising to make changes to the Gender Recognition Act, you know, across the entirety of the UK, and she was pushing that. And now, look, you know, things have changed completely.
But it's like there's not a lot of difference now in my mind between Starmer and Sunak. It's
that's our next article.
Oh, that was a good segue.
That was. Here we go. Here it is.
It's almost as though I looked.
You didn't. Freda Wallace, how dare you? Starmer and Sunak seem united against trans rights. So who do LGBTQ plus people even vote for? Very good question. So, yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot this week. You know, there's a local election coming up, not as important, but as a general election, but will send a strong message, I guess, depending on how people vote. But if you've got two parties which are basically saying the same thing about trans issues and it's negative, I mean, who do you vote for if you are a trans person? Do you vote for Tories, who we really don't like, or do you vote for Labour, who are like Tory light, but they do have some good policies in other areas? I mean, how do you vote there? I think the primary objective is get the Tories out. I don't think the other parties will win on their own, although they can reduce the Tory vote. But you have to, I guess you have to vote for somebody, and if it's going to be Labour and they get in, I'm just hoping that once they're in, that they will kind of come back more to the left where they belong and, you know, look at changing these policies. Maybe it'll be easier for them to do it once they're in power.
Yeah, but you've got to see politics, like, it's really easy for us to just see this through, obviously, because these issues affect us directly. Excuse me, got a bit of gas from my corona. Um, uh, we've got to see it as a whole party, because leaders can, I know that they have a policy and it's, they have meetings, but what I'm saying is things can change pretty quickly once a political party gets in power. Now, I'm still on the side of Labour in this because I just want that change. I just want the opportunity of that change. Whereas we know if we keep voting Conservative, there's not going to be any change. What's shocking is now that we're in a phase now where a Labour Party should be streets ahead, like way ahead, because of everything that's happened. But they're
going to be losing that lead. They're going to be losing it.
I think Starmer is a little bit too woolly. I think he's just not. He's a fence sitter.
Well, I don't think there's time to change Labour leader between now and an election. I don't know what would bring that about. I can't see it happening. But he's very much sitting on the fence still on a lot of issues. He just kind of rose in behind whatever the Tories do. Starmer rose in behind them.
Yeah. He says the same things though. Like I've watched a few interviews with him, and he's very robotic, and he's very, I don't know. But then so is.
Can we get Mick Lynch? Whatever his name was.
Mick Lynch.
Mick Lynch.
Yeah, I've said this loads of times, right? You see, if Mick Lynch was Prime Minister and somebody brought this to him and said, "What about this transgender?"
He'd come out with a strong, positive message, wouldn't he? I mean, that's
all he would say. No, I'll tell you what he would say. He goes, "Have you done the risk assessment?" Because he's a union guy. He's not a culture war guy. He'd go, "Have you done the risk assessment? What's the risk? None to negligible." Right, okay. Well, let it go. Forgot about it. Stop worrying. Because we've got much more important things to worry about.
Exactly, there's bigger things to worry about.
And but you see, this is why these movements, like when people got behind the striking, and people got behind that because the Labour Party were doing bugger all. And in that void, did you see that enough is enough movement?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of that was full of a bit flawed, but the fact that there was a movement there. And I can see that building. Like this year, I think there's something building up, and I think you're going to see something. I'm not advocating for smashing things up or anything, but what's been happening in France, what's been happening there, I'd see that as a warning sign. I'd see it as because while our media and our kind of financial institutions are willing to plug the hole and pretend everything's just fine, thank you very much. The French aren't there for that. You know what I mean? They know what's going on. They know the political situation.
Well, they got rid of their monarchy, didn't they?
Well, we don't. Well, no, we've got a coronation coming up, haven't we?
God. Unfortunately, yes, we do.
Yeah, mine.
We get a bank holiday though, don't we? So I guess there's some good news.
Yeah, something swings and roundabouts.
Swings and roundabouts. So yeah, I don't know who I'm going to vote for, but it's going to have to be tactical. I'm afraid.
Yeah, people say, "Oh, don't vote Liberal Democrat."
I think not voting is a big mistake at all. If you don't vote at all, I think the primary objective is Tories out. Vote for whoever in your area, brings that result. That's what I would say. Even if that's Labour and we're not really sure about them. It's still better than Tories for now. Yeah. I think that's
I've got a vision of decentralising Westminster. Like, just get rid of that old archaic building, that horrible thing. Just base government in Birmingham or something.
Yeah, do it in Manchester.
Yeah, whatever. But just get out of this London, Westminster.
London-centric.
Boys club,
yeah.
Meeting in clubs behind closed doors and doing dodgy deals in brown bags.
Yeah, it's time to shake it all up, isn't it?
I'm not making that up. That stuff is not fiction. And, but I mean, that's probably wishful thinking on my part.
How about Joe Lycett for Prime Minister?
Definitely.
Do you like my segue there? That was good,
I
wasn't
did like that. That was great. That was 10 out of 10.
Thank you. So, Joe Lycett's new late night queer TV triumph. Try not to get riled up by what you might see on GB News, including Freda.
I did see this. Yeah. I love what I like about Joe Lycett is he's political, but he's not political in a, you know, he's
he does some good stuff, doesn't he? Politically, kind of on the nail.
Yeah, but do you know how somebody like Frankie Boyle?
Yeah, Frankie Boyle's great. I love Frankie Boyle.
And he goes for that kind of visceral kind of thing. But Joe Lycett is something joyous about he's kind of anarchistic. You know, I just love it. My friend Jen Ives was on that show. Not this one, I don't think, but the one previous that he did.
Yeah, I think there's been 2 episodes so far.
Yeah, it's great.
It's good, yeah.
Well, you see, this is on Channel 4, right?
Channel 4, yeah.
You see, BBC would never do anything like this now. And, you know, I just thought, wow, there was all that talk about defunding Channel 4, wasn't there? And removing its kind of, because it does get some public funding, I think. But, no, they have their own funding channels now, but some of the best news comes out of Channel 4, actually. Yeah, the Channel 4 news team are pretty good.
One of the really funny things he's got on the show is the spot he does with, you know, it's like a piss take of GB News.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he has, what's the character called? Richard Utree comes on as like the GB News presenter. And he had, last week, it was Alan Carr, had him reading out some like nonsense.
Well, the funny thing about that is I was watching GB News just before.
It's like I can't tell the difference.
I dipped in.
So why is Alan Carr on GB News? Like...
And I just made a little screen record of something that was so kind of unbelievably almost like that guy, what's he called? Calvin Robinson, the vicar. Yeah. And he's saying something ridiculous like we need to. He's talking about a crusade against transgenderism or something ridiculous. And then I recorded that and I put it on Twitter, and I thought this is hilarious. And then I watched this, and I was thinking, well, they don't need to do a comedy of GB News. You just watch GB News. Put the laughter track. All you have to do is put some canned laughter after everything's... I might do this, actually. I might get some videos of GB News, and everything they say, just put a bit of laughter on it.
Yeah.
People would think it was a parody, because this kind of crap they come out with. There's a lady called...
Let me just read this bit out here. It says, one particular standout segment from the late night Lycett saw the comedian in character as Richard Utree on the GB News style show called Straight Talkin', where Alan Carr was encouraged to ruin his career by reading a right-wing rant off the autocue. It's hilarious. It really is.
Yeah. Have you heard of this lady called Nana Akua?
No.
And she's a presenter on GB News.
No, I'm not familiar.
Honestly, some of the things she comes out with, it's just frightening that nobody is there going, are you sure we should be putting this out there?
Well, nobody watches GB News anyway, do they?
I mean, probably, yeah. Well, I watch it on YouTube and they get about 200 views.
The only time I ever watched it is when you've been on it.
Well, that's the only time it's worth watching. And Kelly Jake, he mentioned me in a little meeting today, I think, because somebody pointed it out to me that she said she wouldn't talk to trans activists on the telly, or what she called me a man, actually, or something. I can't remember.
That tells you something, doesn't it? If she's refusing to talk to trans activists or trans people, I mean, what does that tell you?
Because I know it's because she doesn't want to have any challenge.
She doesn't want to be challenged. She doesn't want to be shown up to be who she is.
Well, she likes to play this hard kind of, you know, it's all posturing, isn't it, and sloganeering. Mm-hmm. And if there was, I was really annoyed that I didn't get to have that conversation, because that's why that interview went wrong, because I wasn't prepared for what she called Debbie. So
you basically took out your frustrations on Debbie.
I did a bit, yeah, and I kind of regret that.
I mean, I'm not...
Even though she doesn't deserve much respect.
Exactly.
But I do regret what I said to her. And I did want to actually reach out to her after, but she blocked me.
I think she's blocked everybody. I'm blocked too, and I've never said anything to her.
Yeah, I might try to just say to the producer, look, can you just send Debbie a message that I didn't want it to go that far? But anyway, that's a side issue.
And then our last story for the day is Dolly Parton announces run for US president.
Fantastic. Come on, Dolly. Yeah, but I really want this to be true.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the date. Yeah. I'm looking at the date there on the article.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you trying to fox? Are you trying to fox me?
It was an April Fool.
Oh.
I was really excited when I first saw this. I really fell for the April Fool joke. And I was really disappointed when I actually found out that it was an April Fool's joke. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. But wouldn't it be amazing to have Dolly Parton as president of the US? That would be awesome.
Didn't she donate some money for...
I mean, you might think it sounds a bit ridiculous, but then you look who they have had as president. I mean, it's not ridiculous at all, is it?
She does actually support, LGBTQ rights. And
she does a load of great work. Why couldn't she be president? First female president, Dolly Parton. That would be awesome.
You see, it makes you wonder...
Who would you rather have, Dolly Parton or Ron DeSantis?
I'd rather have me, but...
Well, you're never going to be US president, are you?
Don't tell me what I can and can't be.
Well, you're not a citizen, for starters.
The American dream, you can go there and do whatever you like. That's what they tell them, isn't it?
Except become president, because you weren't born there.
Mm-hmm. I'll lie. So what I was going to say, it makes you wonder what it actually is, the job of president. Because, if Donald Trump can do it...
Any fool can do it. And I'm not saying Dolly Parton is a fool. I'm saying Dolly Parton will be an amazing president.
All Donald Trump did for the first 2 weeks of his presidency was sign pieces of paper and hold them up going like that. Look, I've signed this thing. That's all he did.
Yeah, he was signing his presidential declarations wherever they were, wasn't he?
Obviously, it wasn't a photo of Lorraine Kelly.
It was so hilarious the way they did that. They had like a crowd of people behind him, and he had a big pile of pens. And then they're signing it, and he's holding the sign up, and he's giving the pens away. So it's just a piece of paper you signed. Come on.
I think, this... it's going to be fascinating, isn't it, when they run up to the next presidential election, because the thing that just happened with Trump, where he was indicted. Was he charged? I don't know what's happened actually.
Yeah, he was indicted in New York, wasn't he?
He faced charges, and there was supposed to be a lot. There was this hoo-ha that there was going to be loads of Trump supporters outside, and there was going to be, but there wasn't.
Well, it's New York. It's New York. I think New Yorkers are a bit smarter than that.
The few cranks had driven in from Burp Dunk, Tennessee or something. I don't know, but the main crowd, that when you look at it, when you watch the footage on YouTube or whatever, just have a look. Most of the people there are media people.
They said they'd never seen so many satellite trucks outside, broadcasting this around the world. I mean, all you saw of Trump was he walks out of the court and walks into another room. That's all you saw.
Yeah, it was
so why'd you need that so much TV coverage for such a stupid thing? I don't know. It's mad.
Well, and so there's this talk now about, this is a bad move because it makes him seem like the anti-hero, like he's the underdog again, and that was part of his power and all this. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I don't know. I just think if they voted him in once, there's a chance they could do it again. And
there's a chance. There is a chance.
If he gets away with this, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite funny that the way he went, if he goes down for this, the way he went down was because he sent some money to a porn star. Because that's the charge.
I don't think it was really to do with the fact that he paid the porn star. It was related to how he repaid his lawyer, I think.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was going to. I was trying to get to that, Sorry. Victoria. So that's the thing. But do you follow Stormy Daniels?
Sorry?
On Twitter?
No, I don't know.
She's really funny. She's really witty. She's not. She's not some dumb blonde or anything like that. She's really clever and witty, and she always has a good comeback to all the haters. So I'd like to see Stormy Daniels for president.
Yeah, sure.
There are two people I've always wanted to be a president, and that would be Monica Lewinsky or Stormy Daniels, because I just want a finger up to misogyny. And that's and the last election, when it was Donald Trump and Hillary.
Yeah.
I think Hillary lost that because she couldn't convince the women of America that she was like on their side, because they know the story. They know the story about how they sort of glossed over, what do you call it, whitewashed, just they would have killed Monica Lewinsky if they could get away with it. That couple, Clintons, they would have, I'm telling you. And I mean, if you've ever
watched, the time for
the
Clintons, it was over, really, wasn't it? I mean,
well, yeah, but if you've ever watched anything about Monica Lewinsky, and if you've ever read anything, the way she was set up and then destroyed, it's amazing that she's still out there. She's still fighting for people's rights, and she's a trans ally, and she's just brilliant. I think people like that should be president.
Yeah.
And obviously me.
And you.
I've sort of given up on the idea of being prime minister. I was thinking about it, but it looks like it's long hours. Although when Boris Johnson was doing it, they seemed to have a lot of parties, didn't they? So, yeah.
So this is something we wanted to mention, wasn't it? The Belfast Pride Awards, which I now have on the screen.
Our friend, let me just get it up here.
So nominations are now open for Belfast Pride Awards 2023. Nominations will close on 30th of April. So our friend Paul Bloomer. You so far have nominated him for Pride Ally Community. Yeah, that's the one. And it's to nominate. And I think Paul's really helped me, like when I've dealt with hate crimes and stuff. I don't have the hate crimes, but when you're getting piled on, and I've been attacked at, people have tried to interfere with my work life, and it's just really useful to have somebody who knows how to do complaints properly. And and I think he's getting a lot of shit at the moment. He's getting a lot of shit from some, the fair cop fools, and they're just what they're doing, in my opinion, is malicious communications, because they're looking at his holiday pictures, they're looking at pictures of him, when he's out with his friends or whatever, and they're posting them, and like they did with me, linking his job to those pictures, and they're getting all their little attack dogs to pile on him. Now, I've looked at these posts, and I've noticed that actually what's happening is there are more support for Paul Bloomer than there is for Cop, because people are sharing this, and they know Paul is a good person. Yeah.
So if you see this, report it, call it out, because...
So to nominate Paul, all you have to do is go into that link I just had up on the screen. All you need is your name, email, the category, Pride Ally Community, name of the nominee, Paul Bloomer, and then I think there's 3 questions here. Are you submitting the application on your own behalf or on the behalf of an organisation? Please outline the person, organisation or service you want to nominate and why. Please outline how the nominee meets the criteria. Please provide any other information. So it's pretty simple.
Yeah. Just
do that. Hit send. I guess the more nominations someone gets...
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a vote as well at some point for some of the categories, public vote. So yeah, totally in support.
So I think that rounds up our.
We did have one other thing, and it was the.
Oh, have we?
It was the Jess Thompson thing. I've got it on the screen now. This was the Open Democracy.
Oh yeah, we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, we talked about it. This is the article that Jess
Oh,
Wrote
are
on
you
6th
showing?
of
Have you got it
April.
on the screen? Yeah,
It's on the screen.
fantastic. Oh, such a professional.
Professional, yes.
Yeah.
So it's quite long. It's really good.
So,
Talks
yes.
about what is the EHRC, all the history of what's been going on, what changing the Equality Act would mean. Yeah, it's really well written. Good read.
Yeah, and another thing
Does
is,
the letter matter?
I just want to mention again, I know I've mentioned it a few times,
it.
but I can't mention it enough really, but Trans Safety Network are very under-resourced. They just do what, they do it out, they're all volunteers doing that, and they do it, they get, if you can send them a bit of funding, I think if you go to the page, there's like a donate button, and I think that's where most of the funding comes from for that, so do that.
Yeah, and the link to that article is on my Twitter page. Vicky Hodges 32.
And it's your birthday day out on Tuesday,
we're
isn't
going
it?
out for a little nosh, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going noshing and imbibing.
Noshing and what?
Yeah. Imbibing. Drinking. Okay. Eating and drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
To our favourite venue.
Yeah, very posh. In Blackrod.
Yeah. The cherry tree. Yeah, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to that.
So that's it's your birthday.
My birthday's gone, but
Yeah, but
I'm still celebrating.
Yeah, so happy birthday.
Thank you. Don't you have some news coming up as well?
About me?
Yeah.
What?
On next Friday.
Oh, well, yeah, well, I wasn't going to mention it yet. I'm having surgery. I'm having some surgery on Friday. So, yeah. That's all I'll say about that. Yeah. Because I'll mention we'll do the live pod on Thursday.
So you're going to talk about it then?
We'll talk about it then. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So thanks for
Stay
listening
tuned.
and watching. And
don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to tell all your family, friends, and neighbours about the podcast.
Yeah, I don't tell too many people.
No. Well, yeah, you can. Why not?
It's a secret. We're the
secret podcast. How does that work?
We're the best kept secret on YouTube. That's what we are. So we're going to try and do the "Don't Forget to Subscribe" song.
Oh yeah, I just need a drink. Hang on.
Are you ready? You've got to get it right for once. We never get it right.
Okay.
Right, are you ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Don't forget to subscribe. Wow. That was terrible.
We were close. You
was off key, and you're out of time.
Well, you're out of time too, and it's time to go. So.
All right. Bye.
Bye for now.